good evening and welcome back. We've got another Elon Musk story tonight, and quite frankly, I am liking this chap more and more by the day. I know that before I said he seems to be going through a midlife crisis, and he doesn't really know what he's getting at, and he seems to be quite lonely and obviously being very intelligent and not being able to converse with people accurately and thinking that he can see things that other people can't in terms of AI. But when it comes down to this, he's clearly just fed up with trying to say things in a nice way. Just like you get with grandparents and older people, that at that point they realise nobody really cares, so they may as well speak their mind. Once you get into your 80s, nobody's going to take you seriously anyway, so what's the point in buttering people up and trying to make things sound nice when you can just get your message across in a tenth of the time if you're just really blunt? And Elon Musk is mature beyond his years, and that is the approach that he is putting forward. So as we see from the BBC article, but we'll go to The Guardian in a moment, coronavirus, Elon Musk vows to move Tesla factory in lockdown row. The tweet in question, and then I'll give more context. Frankly, this is the final straw. Tesla will now move its headquarters and future programs to Texas or Nevada immediately. If we even retain Fremont manufacturing activity at all, it will be dependent on how Tesla is treated in the future. Tesla is the last car maker left in California. So, what sparked all this off? Well, as we see from The Guardian, fuck Elon Musk, Democrat rebukes magnate over coronavirus restrictions row. Yes, and when he was told he's described as a business magnate, of course, he requested instead to be called a business magnet. What a lad. Clearly the Operation OKKK is in full effect in this photo. Look at that white power sign, clearly, from the South African. So, what happened here, essentially, is that because through California, they said, okay, you can get back to manufacturing, but for himself with the Fremont, that they're saying, no, actually you can't open yet, we're not going to be lifting it until the end of May. He basically went, well, no, I mean, you've been doing this since April, there is no reason for it to be the case. The governor has said that it is okay to reopen. Why are you stopping me from doing it? So their response is, we look forward to coming to an agreement on appropriate safety plan very soon. It is our collective responsibility to move through the phases of reopening and loosening the restrictions of the shelter-in-place order in the safest way possible, guided by data and science. Bear in mind, California is the place which had the first case of coronavirus, almost a month before anybody else. Why are they not nearly as badly affected as New York? Could it be the difference in weather? The difference in the metro in New York being overly crowded? Could it be just population density? It could be a multitude of these things, but for whatever reason, despite receiving it several weeks earlier and, implementing the shelter-in-place stay-at-home order 3 days before New York, I don't think that's enough to make such a vast difference between New York, of course, being the epicenter of the virus officially for the entire world. So, Elon Musk's breaking point is fantastic. On Saturday, he blasted the unelected and ignorant interim health officer of Alameda, acting contrary to the governor, the president, our constitutional freedoms, and just plain common sense. And the vitally important thing about someone like him coming out and saying this is that he has the power to move businesses, and it's 10,000 jobs that he has in California. And of course, the people who work there, I'm sure, knowing him, he would say, well, if you want to move states as well and come along with me, I know you've got family, so you might not want to, you might not be able to, that's fine. I can't stay here. You don't have to. If you want to come along, then do. Because also, when it comes to going back to work, he said that if you want to, then your place is there. If you don't want to, that's fine. He just wanted the option to be there for his employers. And that is vital, that anyone who wants to work can, but he's not forcing them to work. It's very, very straightforward. So he's going to be moving to Texas, most likely. And of course, the responses from them have been to say, yes, well, of course, we welcome you. We welcome the best and brightest. You're more than welcome to. And I think it's because of these things, specifically Elon Musk here, that it's sending shockwaves around the world to any more democratic nation to say, okay, it was kind of getting to the breaking point when people were clearly not obeying the stay-at-home orders and would rather be in the sun, possibly because they've seen the scientific evidence to say that in 80% humidity and hot temperatures of about 28 degrees C, that the coronavirus lasts for about a minute and a half. That's it. So they might have seen that and gone, well, hey, then I might as well go outside and sunbathe because it's good. Not only does it strengthen my immune system because of vitamin D being anti-inflammatory, and that's what causes the cytokine storms, which is from coronavirus, which leads to the worst damage in the lungs, but also it kills the coronavirus itself. So that makes complete sense that you're not at a higher risk for being outside. In fact, you're not at a lesser risk, but you're not really at a higher risk either for being outside. But you are strengthening your immune system by being outside. So it is a net positive, no doubt. So that's the reason. Nonetheless, people went outside and went, this is definitely better. And that is when the police in Hackney, of course, said, well, we're fighting a losing battle. And now Elon Musk is saying, well, if there are different states offering different options, then we're going to move there. Just like we've seen before with increase in taxation, that of course you get the brain drain of the higher earners saying, well, then we're either going to find a way around this tax, or we're just going to leave the country or the jurisdiction of which this applies, and therefore the supposed increased tax revenues from the tax rates does not correlate. They get a decrease in tax revenue from an increase in tax rate, and it just screws over the middle and lower classes more because the upper classes shelter their money away or leave. With that in mind, of course, Boris Johnson has caught wind of this as well by saying that he's got a conditional plan to reopen society, but the main thing here is that from Wednesday, you can go outside as much as you like. You can drive wherever you like, as far as you like. That's fine, which is good, because then the police won't be patrolling the roads just to do random stops to say, where are you going? Have you got a license for your journey? Have you got a license to be outside of home? And instead, they can focus on a serious crime like grooming gangs. But hey, that'll be a first, I suppose. Baby steps, why not? And he's saying that as long as you follow social distancing, it's fine to do what you need to do. And he's also, thank God, sensible enough to say that although we say if you can work from home, please do, if you can't and you need to go, for example, construction work, then you are explicitly encouraged to go to work. So it's no longer a thing of if you can work from home, then do, otherwise don't worry. It's do work. Just work. You have your job back now. You can work. Do whatever you need to do to work. Preferably work from home. If you really can't, then do go into work or go around to work, whatever it is that you can do to work. You are now allowed to earn money again. Isn't that nice? You are now allowed to associate with different people again. Although, not to visit your family. That is the sticky point there. Because although you can exercise more and you can do sport, it has to be with people from your household. And although you can go out to work, and if you work in manufacturing or construction or anything like that, then you can go to work. If it isn't for work, then it has to be with members of your own household. So you don't have the freedom to associate as you wish. That is what he's saying. Because social distancing is paramount, who work with employers in order to make sure they get the PPE that they need. But for anybody who decides to flout these laws, or these rules, which is basically just socializing, because you might be at a center, who knows, you might be spreading subversive propaganda if you're not publishing things online and instead just talking with people, who knows how subversive you might be. We can't have groups of people getting together and then taking treks in national parks. I'm sorry, patriotic alternative, it's not going to happen. It was all a ploy to stop you. That you're not allowed to do that. That's basically it. And if you're maybe a divorcee, and of course the wife has the children, as they always do, and the house as well, you won't be allowed to visit them either. Not that you really were before, but now that the government will step in with an increased fine. So good luck seeing your family. And moving on. Of course, when will schools reopen? So he's saying that ideally year reception 1, 2, and 6 will be hopefully in June. He's hoping the people who will be taking exams next year will be able to see some of their teachers this year, and then allow the summer holiday in order to let things pass, keep people shielding if they wish to for the 12 weeks as recommended, and then be able to get back to school in the autumn as the regular school year. So for most people, they've given up on school before the summer holidays. Anybody who is sitting their exams, they've got to find a way to do that. Most of it will be remote or posting it in, sending it in, whatever it might be, if they're taking the exams at all. Of course, the universities are predominantly now just doing online assessments, and you submit your work online as is to be expected. So it's actually working very well, and luckily for universities, we've had online courses from the private sector existing for so many years now, and higher education and those sorts of things. Of course, that you can take it, like Charisma on Command has their own Charisma University kind of thing, that you can take those courses. It's very straightforward, and they've been doing it for a few £100 or a few $100 instead of £9,000 in the UK, or even more in America. And therefore that framework and that style and that method is already well set up. So the currently established physical universities can easily adopt that business model, and they can work through it seamlessly, and that is exactly what they're doing. So then most of the cost is, of course, through keeping that building, that center going and maintaining it, and paying the tax on that if there is any. And therefore they're saving the costs on that as well, of course. So hopefully we'll see it go over to more digital. We'll see digital universities be permitted just as much as regular universities. I mean, good luck given lobbying. But if we do, then seeing as Dr. John B. Peterson is setting up his own online university, then those courses, which will of course be significantly cheaper and more accessible and more accurate as well, will hopefully then see a far greater rate of people who can get that actual education, not just a letter at the end of their name or things like that, but actual education. Basically, just like you do if you want to learn, then you go to a library, or you go to the internet, you read and you listen and you watch and you learn. Or if you live near a university, you can just attend those classes. You could do that. I mean, obviously people don't attend classes if they're not at the university. I mean, often they don't attend them even if they are the university, because it isn't the knowledge that matters. It is the degree, it is the qualification. So the big thing is trying to change that. And if we can change it so that it's far more accessible and makes sense, and you've got a bigger competition so that the good stuff rises to the top, then you can actually have qualifications that make sense, and people will be choosing to go there to learn as an option instead of feeling like they have to, from Tony Blair's legacy of 50% of people going to university, which is absolute nonsense. Why? The average IQ of someone with a university degree is 115. That's one standard variation off of the average of 100. But you're suggesting everyone from 100 and up should be going to university. That's bullshit. That's crazy. That's mad. That's just not at all accurate. But lastly, we're going to end with a little fun story. We're going to end with a lovely little thing, as Elon Musk has already likened the lockdown to fascism and all the far left activities of the government running everything. The same thing here with the Malta ambassador comparing Angela Merkel to the communist, second only to Lenin, according to Goebbels, Hitler. And now the video's gone. So Angela Merkel compared to Hitler by Malta ambassador who then quits. So as they say here, Michael Zamit Tabona reportedly wrote on his Facebook page, 75 years ago we stopped Hitler. Who will stop Angela Merkel? She has fulfilled Hitler's dream to control Europe. Well, almost, but these plucky Brits, as we've seen today, of course, with the Brexit rails saying, we need you to agree to the terms. Like, well, we have. We're waiting for your response. Here is the document. And now it's all on Twitter. So good luck with that. You've got until June, otherwise we're leaving on WTO terms. Hurry the fuck up. And of course, Keir Starmer is shitting himself, but that's to be expected, and that just makes life better. So the post has since been deleted, and of course, the Maltese Foreign Minister, Everest Bartolo, said Germany would receive an apology. Mr. Bartolo told the newspaper that he had instructed the ambassador to remove the comment as soon as he was alerted to it. Mr. Tabona, who became Malta's ambassador in Finland in 2014, has so far made no comment on the row. He is reported to be a political appointee, not a career diplomat. But yes, there's a good point, that okay, Europe, you've got to do what we say, you can't go outside unless we tell you, and you can only work in things that we vow is acceptable. Oh, and if you speak against the government, then we will reprimand you. I mean, as we see here, of course. Free speech of comparing somebody to somebody else, well, that's not allowed. Surely Angela Merkel will go, hang on. Oh, okay, she won't, but she should. Go, this seems like quite a huge claim of comparing me to a communist. Okay, Hitler wasn't quite a communist, but the inspirations are from the same. That's why Goebbels said he was second only, that Lenin was second only to Hitler, rather, because they all agreed with the far left propaganda. I don't understand why they're at all right wing. They're really not. Marginal tax rate, gun registries, increased infrastructure spending, schooling, pensions, marginal tax rates, all that. The only thing that possibly makes them far right is white nationalists, as in white supremacists, which means black supremacists are far left, but then Asian supremacists or Chinese or Alaskan, where are they on the compass? Or it's like closed borders, right? So the Berlin Wall and the USSR, they were far right because they had closed borders and they had the satellite states as well. No, they're far left, right? So that's bullshit. Okay, so they're far left as well. Brilliant. I'm glad we agree. Anyway, yes, the Angela Merkel should go. So you're comparing me to this gentleman from history, Adolf Hitler. What are your reasons for that? Am I at all similar to him? If I am, then maybe some of his points were good, or maybe I'm wrong and I've made mistakes in what I've done. Please let me know so that I can do better for the people that I'm serving. Let's pretend she thinks of herself as a public servant and not just a bloated bureaucrat. Either way, she could then go, well, let's adopt something that will help people more in order to get me elected again. That is the way it should be taken, not, oh, let's delete that and get rid of it. It's like, no, question the guy. Why did you say that? What makes you say that? Is there any reason to it? If there isn't, then you should be ashamed of yourself for just saying inflammatory things. And then, yes, of course, you've ruined your reputation. But if you've got a point to it, then stand up and be counted and say it. And don't reprimand him forward. Actually listen. Wouldn't that be great if people listen to each other? But hey, as always, until next time, have a good one.